Hey everyone, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic live post-game show and podcast where we recap and we talk about the latest Raptors game we all just watched. And tonight, that happened to be the Sacramento Kings. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi. I'm here with my two co-hosts, Oren Weisfeld, Aiden Moss.
We're back, baby.
We got the whole crew here tonight, which is nice. And yeah, this is a great game because your Raptors won, which sounds pretty odd this season. You don't get them often, but when you do, you celebrate. Your Raptors defeated the Sacramento Kings 113-95. That brings the Raptors record to 21-27 on the NBA season. And where are we at, guys? Where are we at? I guess, Aiden, I'll start with you. I'm sure we all watched the full game. It was a 10 p.m.er, which is unfortunate for us East Coast men and myself and Oren.
Thing is, you're not even on the East Coast. Imagine if you actually were. Then it'd be a really late game.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to troll you a little bit, Aiden. Aiden's further down the East Coast, so he was really struggling for this one.
What time is it in like the East Coast of Canada right now?
Well, Newfoundland, it's an hour and a half ahead, so you're looking at
so
1:30, 1:45.
That's tough.
But over here on the West Coast, it's a nice 9 p.m. That was the first game in a long time where I feel like I didn't either yell at the TV in complete like frustration / confusion or feel sweat running down the sides of my body in anticipation of this game collapsing. So that was refreshing. I will say that this is the Sacramento Kings we're talking about, and it's very encouraging to see that we held them to 95 because these guys can pour buckets on. But
number one offense in the league.
What's that?
Number one offense in the league.
That's right. So there is something to be said for that, and we can get into the defense. But the 118 is like, it is what it is against Sacramento.
113, yeah.
113. I can't read.
Oren, what did you like about this game? 18-point win for the Raptors. What did you think?
Well, I was gonna say, unlike Aiden, I was angry at points during this game because the Raptors pissed me off. It's like you play like this every 3 months, and it's like, why can't you play like this a little bit more often? It's just like this is kind of what we expected the team to look like coming into the season. And we just haven't seen it at all. So when they do it, when they have this defensive performance like this, where they literally look unstoppable, they had one against the Spurs this season too. Early in the season, I felt a very similar way during that game, where it's just like, oh, this team is completely overwhelmed with the Raptors' size. The Raptors are moving the ball really well on offense, doing a lot of good things, and it's just like so frustrating for me because I'm like, why can't you guys do this a little bit more often? Like you have the talent to. It's pretty clear when you do it in these games against, again, the number one offense in the league and the Kings.
Yeah, strangely enough, this is a game where the Raptors only went 8 deep. You guys could see it on the box score, but if you're listening to our podcast, the 3 players that came off the bench tonight were Chris Boucher, Juan Hernan-Gomez, and Precious Achiuwa. 2 of those 3 players, I believe, had scored over 15 points. Precious and Chris Boucher were extremely, extremely efficient off the bench. They combined to go, here we go with the quick math, 16 for 23 in this game. I don't know exactly what that percentage is, but I would assume it's somewhere in the 60 to 70 range. It was incredible to watch not just the starters actually share the ball, especially late in the game. You know, I tweeted out, and I did this. Yeah. I did this as a joke, and it was one of those things where it was like I win either way because either I'm right or the Raptors win. So like I win either way. And what I tweeted out was that this is about 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. I tweeted out, here comes the point in the game where the Raptors forget how to share the basketball, something along those lines. I don't remember my exact tweet.
Don't worry, I'll pull it up.
And the shot quality just drops drastically. I mean, we've seen that all season long for the Raptors.
Why?
Don't mind the picture.
What does he have to do?
What's it tweet?
It was just the mood that I felt like I was in. Time for the Raptors to deliberately drop their shot quality to such a standard. I don't know if you should put this on live just because
it's okay.
That's a classic Sahal tweet. Like it's a long sentence. I don't really follow what it is.
Yeah, the picture. Time for the Raptors to deliberately drop their shot quality to such a standard that allows the Kings to waltz back into the game. Let the games begin. So I was expecting, the Raptors to do what they've done all season long and play great leading up to the last 6 or so minutes of the game, where everything just falls apart. But they didn't, and they shared the ball, and the starters looked great, and the bench was super efficient. And I don't know. I
Yes.
was shocked, Oren, that Nick Nurse only went 8 deep in a game like this where you're on a Western Conference road trip. But
Yeah, but no, let's be positive.
Sorry, you're
first.
surprised?
Let's be positive
bit.
first before we criticize the decisions. Because speaking of tweets, I was just gonna say I tweeted at the end of this game when Pascal dove on the floor and got a jump ball.
Yeah, that was nice.
The game was already out of hand. Like, it was an 18-point game with like less than 2 minutes left. But it just kind of showed, like, even if the shot selection did falter a little bit, like we're so used to seeing recently, the defense was, they just kept turning them over even down the stretch, which doesn't really typically happen the way teams play ISO ball down the stretch. So I just thought the defense too, just the way they were jumping on the ground, the effort they played with today. Like, let's talk about the defense, because some of the rotations they were making, just their kind of off ball positioning and stuff, it was just so crisp, and it confuses me. Again, I get that it's a good matchup against the Kings for the Raptors in a lot of ways, but I felt like we saw a lot of good little defensive things that we're just not used to seeing consistently.
Yeah. When you force the number one ranked offense in the league to 19 turnovers, and I'm not even, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I think 7 or 8 of those turnovers came in a span.
Sabonis had 9 too.
Yeah, it's a career high.
And I wouldn't have known that until I forgot who it was. Someone tweeted that I think it was Blake Murphy, tweeted he was trying to go for the double-double with points and turnovers. I think single-double is what he called it.
He didn't get either.
He also, and these are the type of little tidbits you get when you watch the other broadcast. The Kings, I think Sabonis, he broke a 23-game streak, double streak.
Yeah. Matt Devlin talked about that too, pal.
Oh, did he really? Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you get kind of tired of it.
It's really good though.
I love Devlin and I love Armstrong, but then sometimes you just get tired of the homerism, right? So got to switch it up sometimes. Big game for the defense for sure.
The defense was everywhere, and they had their hands in a lot of the like passing lanes and driving lanes, and I don't know, nothing really stood out. I was trying to figure out like what I saw. Sampson tweeted that they do well against like the type of bigs or running teams that run offenses through their types of bigs, but it was curious to me that they just seemed so much tighter. And Sacramento passes the ball really well. There was a couple of unforced errors, like it wasn't all because of Toronto, but just generally they were able to kind of stay within their rotation, stay within their cycles, which is atypical of this team this year. It seems that like no matter what, something breaks down. Whereas you were seeing full possessions consecutively, where they were kind of maintaining like the mold of their defense. And, I don't know what the explanation is for that.
Can we talk about? Sorry, Oren, you can go ahead because I feel like you're going to expand on that point a little.
Well, I just want to keep talking about the defense. So,
yeah,
were you going to say something off that?
I wanted to mention a player in particular who I feel like since he's rejoined the Raptors have just looked much better offensively. Their bench has looked fantastic since Precious Achiuwa has returned.
You mean defensively, right?
He defensively he's looked awesome too. But Precious is one of those guys. We say it. All the time. He's one of those guys on offense where you watch him, you're going on a particular possession, you're going, what the hell is he doing? And then on defense, it's a big block or it's a big steal or, it's a great defensive possession versus a guy like Sabonis. So, Precious looked absolutely amazing in a game like this. Other than Siakam, I think bailing out the Raptors with a couple, or I should say a few really, really good offensive possessions where it was just an isolation game at the top. And I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. The 4 other Raptor starters, maybe not Gary Trent Jr. because he's been really good the last month or so. Whenever I see a Raptors player go in complete isolation, especially at the top, and it's not Pascal Siakam, my anxiety starts to raise a little bit. OG Anunoby looked great in this game. He didn't score as much as maybe we're used to, but that plus 24 stat is very telling that whenever he was in the game, good things were happening for the Raptors. Precious Achiuwa, I'm just happy he's back. He's a massive part of this team. He's a guy who's like a quasi starter. He comes in when the Raptors are missing someone, and when everyone's healthy, he's coming off the bench and shows energy. So, I just wanted to give Precious Achiuwa a quick little shout out because he played great.
No, for sure. He's been a big part of. He was definitely a big part of that defense tonight. Like they were playing him in some drop coverage, which the Raptors don't typically do, and he just looked really comfortable in it. And like you said, primary guy on Sabonis who had 9 turnovers. So I think that is a good point. Like Precious has helped the defense, and everything is probably a little bit easier for everyone else when Precious is back there because he's the only real rim protector on the team. So there's probably a level of trust there that they have when he's out there. And yeah, like what I was gonna say about the defense was just like, I guess to the point about the Kings being a good matchup, like they don't have a lot of guards who are going to break you down off the dribble. Like Fox is obviously really quick, but everyone else of their guards is like a spot up shooter primarily, or a movement shooter, or Davion Mitchell who's like a defender. So that favors the Raptors, who don't have a lot of great quick point of attack defenders, and so in that way it is a good matchup. Their bigs can match up Sabonis size for size. 4 offensive rebounds only for the Kings tonight. So that was a big thing too that they did, was just not give up any offensive rebounds and close possessions. But yeah, like I don't have an explanation for it either in terms of the way they were rotating, the way they were trusting each other, the way that guys just were making the right reads off the ball every time, and with the help, and when it was coming, where it was coming from, where the next rotation was. They looked like they've been playing like building to this all season, and we just haven't seen it. So it's weird. I'm curious if they can build on it, but we'll see.
I was going to say what Jesse mentioned, which is the way the refs did let them play tonight. Like, it's honestly one of the few NBA games I've watched this year where I don't actually remember getting mad about the calling in any large like swath of calls. There's a couple of frustrating ones, but it's true. Like it was a really physical game, and we out physicaled Sabonis, which I think is another part of this too, is that like he's usually the dominant force on the floor and the strongest guy. And I think that attests to what we're kind of seeing, but can't really like put our finger on or measure, is that like we were more physical as a whole, as a team, and kind of like put our stamp on that end of the floor, right? And to your point, Oren, of guys not really attacking, there's not really a lot of strength on this team other than Sabonis. So like being able to out-length them and out-strength them, and have the refs kind of support that really showed tonight.
Yeah, for sure. And it also goes back to the Raptors playing a full game from their entire roster. When you go 8 deep, you need your bench to produce. And when you only play 3 guys coming off the bench, like what if I told you guys, I'm looking at the box score now, and this is the first time looking at it after the game. If I told you guys before the game that all 5 Raptors starters would shoot under 50%. Now, to be totally fair to the Raptors, there was guys just under 50%, right? But if I told you every single Raptors starter, would shoot under 50%, you would think the Raptors were getting blown out tonight. And here we are.
And only 7 free throws as a team.
But also 29 assists, which is a ton. I would be curious to know what their high is. It's probably up there. Like that's another thing
for sure.
It's another thing about this team, is that so often like it's just one and dones, or just ISO ball kind of stuff. And there was a lot more ball movement, and that a lot of that came from Scotty tonight, where we can maybe transition to. I don't know, but that despite a poor percentage of shooting overall, like our ball movement and passing, I think made up for that in a lot of ways.
I think it's been getting better all season, honestly. Like it's been something that's definitely been improving. Like,
but they go back and forth. Like they'll have moments. We were talking about this before. Like they'll have moments where either they're doing it and they just kind of go back into the isolation ball, or they'll get a lead or they'll lose a lead and they'll panic and they'll go back into like their comfort zone. Like I got this. But tonight you didn't see any like sustained part of that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I just mean like over the course of the season, it does feel like it's trending generally in that way.
Is getting better. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but there are definitely way too many games or just stretches of games where it goes into hero ball or iso ball or just the wrong guys have the ball in their hands.
I feel like we're so used to seeing that. The Raptors were 29th in the league last season in team assists per game, and this year they sit 24th in the league at 23. So whenever you can get a game from the Raptors where they move the ball efficiently too, I mean, you can move the ball and get a bunch of turnovers. I feel like the Kings were trying to move the ball all over the place, and the ball was being turned over. And one thing the Raptors were not doing in the first half with those turnovers was scoring. The transition defense from the Kings looked pretty damn good. It's the half court where the Raptors were winning. So the Raptors aren't known, at least in the last 2-3 seasons, as a team that, you know, moves the ball incredibly well as a team. That worked last season. I mean, they were 48-34 in terms of their team record because they had guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Pascal Siakam who could, and Fred VanVleet for that matter too, who they didn't need an action to kind of initiate their offense, right? A lot of times that isolation ball worked for them. So I mean, 29 assists is something that you want to see from the Raptors, and I agree with you, Oren. That it has been trending in the right direction, and I'm excited to see that for the Raptors. Am I at the point now, you know, where I'm gonna take back what I said, Oren, when we both agreed with each other, where we said we gave up on the Raptors? Who knows? I mean, I'll flip flop. I don't mind.
Wait, you gave up on them?
You gave up on
them? We both did. How about you? Did you ever give up on them?
I've been very close. Very close.
Yeah, we literally had an episode called Oren and Sahal give up on the Raptors. I guess you missed that. Yeah.
Just quickly back to the assist thing. Their season high, so their top 5 assist games were 32, 32, 31, 31, and 30. And they won all 5 games.
Ooh, that's a good stat.
Now
data, take that for data.
Part of that is like, you know, they probably hit more of the shots that they should have. But
they shot 30% from 3. So
I was just going to say tonight that wasn't the case. They had in one of the games they had 9 threes and 10 threes. 2 of the games 9, 10, and 3. So, you know, there's something, and I wanted to write about this last week, and I couldn't really find any correlation like over the course of the season with increased passing assists, potential assists equaling more winning. But if you look at their top assists, they're 5-0. So now 6-0. So or 6-1, I guess. But something to be noted.
Here's a related stat. They're 24-6 or something, or 26-4.
You can't data. You can't be like and something or
okay.
Kind of.
Here we go.
Yeah, you can. Whatever. No, it's 26-4. It's 26-4. Over the last 2 seasons, when they shoot 40% or better from 3. So there's another little stat that I think is somewhat related. But it's a really encouraging. I mean, I don't even know if it's encouraging, but it's pretty wild that they won this game by like 20. And the Kings shot 40% from 3, and the Raptors shot 30%.
Yeah, because most of our losses have been because we shoot bricks for the majority of the game.
Yeah, and we did tonight too, but they did the offensive rebounding thing really well. They got out in transition really well. They forced turnovers. Yeah,
we won. I saw a tweet that we had like. Well, we can look here, but I think we had 24 more field goal attempts than they did. Yeah, 20. Yeah, 24.
Oh my God.
97 total field goal attempts for the Raptors, 73
That's insane.
For the Kings.
I didn't notice that.
10 less turnovers and 7 more offensive rebounds.
That's one way to keep everyone happy on offense is just to get 24 more shots than the other team, you know?
Do you think
that's a good point?
Everyone's satisfied.
Do you think after a game like tonight, OG goes in the locker room, he's like, I still got to get traded.
Dude, I don't even know what to say about that. But we could talk about trade talk. I wanted to. But
before
like that rumor with the Bob
do.
McCown thing, I just want to say, right after he says a source told me that OG Anunoby wants out, his coworker said, OG definitely has the most value on the Raptors, right? And they agreed that OG has the most value on. And then I was just like, well, I can't trust these guys if they think OG has more valuable than Siakam or Barnes. Like, that's just not true.
That's insane. Yeah.
How is it possible that someone like Bob McCown would be more in touch with the Toronto Raptors franchise than you, Oren? Like, who's there every single goddamn day?
No, but I don't have sources in the front office and stuff. But I will say this: last offseason, I got burned by believing some of these rumors, from trusted sources, and I'm not even gonna put anyone under the bus, but I'm just saying almost everyone got it wrong in terms of the stuff they were saying ahead of what the Raptors were gonna do at last deadline. Everyone that I read who had rumors saying stuff, not necessarily got it wrong, but whatever they said didn't happen. So it's really, I just don't trust the rumor mill around this time, especially when it comes to the Raptors.
Yeah, I feel like I know who you're talking about as well. But
I'm talking about multiple people, honestly. Not even
list them. Write them down. Write down the names. I want to know them.
Right? We call these people reputable, and then they burn us. Before we get into that, because we will talk about OG, because I feel like that is the thing that everyone wants to talk about, OG Anunoby. I want to circle back to something Aiden mentioned just a little while ago about Scotty Barnes, and I think a lot of the increase in ball movement for the Raptors as of recent has been because of Scotty Barnes and the ability for Nick Nurse to finally realize that, hey, Scotty Barnes having the ball in his hand to initiate some of these offensive sets, especially in the post. Like I mentioned, that in the post, Scotty Barnes almost always seems to make the right decision. He waits and he waits and he waits, and a lot of times the Raptors do it where when he has a smaller player on him. Kevin Huerter was on Scotty Barnes on the right elbow in the fourth quarter, middle of the fourth quarter, and immediately Fred VanVleet found him, relocated to the top of the three, and as soon as Scotty felt that double team coming, somehow from, I think, behind him, Fred VanVleet was wide open for three. The Kings were too late. Fred VanVleet hits it. Yeah, I mean, Scotty Barnes, 10 assists. You don't need – Scotty's become one of those players where – I mean, he has been one of those players for quite a while where you don't need him to put up 15, 20 points to look like he is making a major impact in the game. He had 7 points tonight. He was a plus 22. He had 10 assists, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and just a single turnover in 38 minutes. So, Scotty has a lot, I think, to do with the Raptors' efficiency on offense.
He was excellent. I've been advocating forever for Scotty and Gary to lead this bench. And it just, maybe Scotty wasn't ready for it, but he certainly is. You can see the dynamics of this team transforms when both Pascal and Freddie are off the floor, right? It's no longer iso ball. It's something completely different. And they really only need to break even with these units, right? That's all we're really asking for. But they can be so much more, especially as Precious continues to blossom. Gary even has room to operate. And then Scotty's just this fulcrum point at every spot on the floor where he can literally pass to anybody from anywhere to anywhere. Some of the passes tonight were insane. The one where Boucher, I think, got blocked by Huerter was crazy. It was it was from the top of the 3-point line at Boucher, kind of above Huerter, and then Boucher kind of bobbled it or whatever. But I think they got to run with this, and I think they got to run with it, because I think it's the only way we're going to get these guys under 40 minutes a night.
Yeah. Oren, what did you think about Scotty's game overall, and how maybe the box score doesn't tell the full story? Because I feel like a lot of people, the first thing they do when the Raptors win or lose is they go, oh, how many points did this guy score? And how many points did that guy score? And they see Scotty with 7 points. But watching the game, you realize he was definitely one of the most important Raptors by quite a margin.
Yeah, I still want him to be more aggressive as a scorer. Like, he only took 8 shots and scored 7 points, and he had opportunities to like, he was really looking for his teammates tonight. And I guess that's what you guys are saying. Yeah, like, he's been in a good role recently. There's definitely a balance to find there. I feel like a team like the Kings isn't going to be as smart about making Scotty a scorer as good defensive teams are. And like, against good defensive teams, he has to be more aggressive and take it to the rim and demand double teams in the post so that there's actually opportunities to pass it out, right? And like, that's what we've seen over this past little stretch, is that he has been a lot more aggressive. I think tonight wasn't a good example of that as a
But he didn't
scorer.
need to be, like, and I like that. I don't like that it sometimes just seems like he's being timid, but I do like that he can change he almost goes from like manual to automatic or whatever, right? Like,
For
he
sure.
completely changes the way he operates.
Yeah, for sure, especially like in the second halves usually. But yeah,
I saw Phoenix posts earlier, but now they paid $2. We have to address it ASAP, Rocky.
Phoenix, one of the best friends.
We'll get to your question.
Well, no, but he paid to get to the front line. We got to address it.
All right. Well, yeah, that's enough on Scotty. Anyways, Phoenix Plays Z. Thank you for the donation. He says OG Anunoby for Dyson Daniels and Trey Murphy and filler, which I assume means picks too. Who says no? Any of you guys? Yeah, like let's talk about trade. We can start with OG, but yeah.
If I'm New Orleans, absolutely not.
Yeah. Well, there's no like explanation of the picks. Let's say 2 first-round picks.
No, 2 is too many. I'd say 1 and then a salary. I think filler is salary filler. Like, you need to get to OG's number. So it's like
for people who don't watch the Pelicans often, from what I've heard, Dyson Daniels is a prospect that they are extremely happy with. Like,
and Trey Murphy would also help the Raptors a ton because he's a 6'9" shooter who actually really shoots threes.
I actually think that this is off topic entirely, but I actually think New Orleans should think about trading Ingram and keeping these young wings. It's kind of like they're all on like really small contracts. They all have so much room to
Why would they trade Ingram though?
Because he doesn't really like Zion. You saw Zion with Ingram out and he was completely destroying.
Yeah, but teams. Zion with Ingram in was also destroying teams earlier in the season.
I just think you can get a lot more for him and then keep your depth with all these young guys. But hey, I'm a wild GM, man. I'll trade anybody.
That is wild. No one's safe. Dude. Well, that reminds me of like the people who think the Raptors should trade Siakam. Like, that feels like a very similar idea to me.
Well, they also have CJ McCollum, which I think is like the part of this too, is that I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah, let's talk about OG because he was in the rumor mill today. Bob McCowan obviously said that he wants out of Toronto in the rumor mill for anything else. But people obviously seem to think that he's a likely name to get traded. Oh, Bruce Arthur said a team had previously offered the Raptors 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby.
And Grange reported that an insider said they're worth a S load of stuff.
Yeah. Grange also reported that there's a chance that Gary Trent Jr. and the Raptors could come to another deal, despite everyone thinking that's not really an option. But yeah, let's start with OG. I guess I'll just say I'm of the opinion that the Raptors need to trade one of these starters. Like, one of these 5 guys has to go, reshape the roster, get some young players or picks in, and side note, that lets you move Precious into the starting lineup, which I think for the second half of this season should be a big priority given the development route that they kind of need to go here. They're clearly not good enough to win. And I think a half a season of Precious starting at center would help. So I'm of the opinion you got to trade one of the 5. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on OG.
No, I'm ready. I'm with you. Go ahead, Aiden.
No, you go.
I was gonna say no. You go. No, I was gonna say I have gradually this season became more and more open to the idea of trading OG Anunoby, and that's not necessarily because of OG himself, but I think just more or less has to do with I want to see a change. Like, I want to see the Raptors add more young talent to this team. I feel like this team has everybody right now currently in their prime, which isn't a good look for a team that sits 12th right now in the East. But this is the first time in quite a bit where I'm looking at the Raptors roster up and down. I'm saying, other than Scotty and Precious, there's no real young talent worth being excited about on this team. I mean, if you look at the former iterations of the Raptors team, you had Norman Powell, and you had Fred, and you had Pascal, and you had all these young players. I wouldn't mind a trade that, included two pretty good prospects or a very good prospect and a couple first-round picks. I wouldn't mind it at all. I think something needs to change. And it's not just OG. I mean, Gary Trent Jr. is one of my favorite. I was so excited when the Raptors first acquired him. Duke Blue Devil, salute. But stop it, Aiden. Just stop. Let me get through this. I love Gary Trent Jr. a lot on a personal level for this team. However,
you love him on a personal level.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, I'm doubling down.
He does seem pretty cool.
He does, just as well too. Where was I?
Love him.
Sorry,
girls love Gary.
I don't blame him.
He's a handsome guy. Yeah.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is I'm okay at this point with Gary going. Just if the package is right. If Fred's gone, Fred's gone. Like if the package is right. I mean, the Raptors, taking away this game right here for the Kings, they do not look great this season. Something has to change for this team. And I think now is the time to maybe open up opportunities for a guy like Oren mentioned, Precious Achiuwa, who's looked fantastic this year. I also want to see this team stylistically change a little bit more. I mean, we've been asking for a center for how long? Something needs to change. This team needs more rollers to the rim, guys who could finish at the rim, guys who could protect the rim, and young talent. That's what I'm all about. You give Masai Ujiri a bunch of first-round picks, and hey, guys, it may be 2019 before we know it, sooner rather than later. No.
Okay, we're going to address this, but quickly, I want to give my 2 cents on OG. I'm going to be writing about this on Friday, so whatever. But I think first of all, the young guys you did miss other than Precious and Scotty are Gary, who's 23, and OG, who's 25, freshly 25.
And I just want to say for the record, I have not left Banton Island. I'm still there.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair enough. I think OG is virtually untradeable. Like, unless he actually wants to leave, I don't think it makes any sense to trade him. And part of the argument I have is if you can literally go down every single team that wants to be in the playoffs this year or that is on the verge, like Oklahoma City, and they need an OG. Like, his value his skill sets are very rare in this league. And I think he's super young. He's on an excellent contract. There's no reason why we can't re-sign him and run him along guys like Scotty and Precious, whose development is going at a much faster rate than OG. So it's not like he's that much older. And so I just don't, unless he wants out, or unless you get a package where it's Dyson Daniels and Trey Murphy and 2 first-rounders or something like you can't turn down, I don't think you trade him. I just don't think it makes sense.
I'll play devil's advocate to that argument, but first let's get to Max Pasemko, who gave us a nice donation. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Max.
Let's all just answer this question. Sure. From 0 to 100, how sure are you all that OG wants out? None of us have any idea is the answer. I'll rephrase the
last week
to how much do you guys think OG wants out, just based on your own brains?
Yeah, sure, in the colloquial way.
I'll say I think there is I'll say 50-50. I don't know.
I think there's a difference between wanting out and not being happy. Like, that wanting out is very severe. Mm-hmm. But he is a clutch client. And they're renowned for having pushing buttons and trying to get guys out. So I would say I'm 51% sure.
Okay.
This is also the first time in OG's career where he's not winning other than that COVID season. So that I feel like has a lot to do with it as well. OG's he's a perennial winner. He came into the league, he's been winning. He came on a very good Raptors team, and he's been winning since. So I think that has a lot to do with it. His role, of course.
Yeah. I don't believe the rumor. I don't really believe the rumor.
The thing is A, OG isn't getting maximized in his position. B, if he were to go somewhere else and get maximized in position, his value would drop. I think you see what he's doing out there. He's not capable of higher usage, more isolation.
Yes.
Oh, I
Okay. So
see
this is
what
what I
you're
wanted to
just
get
can't
at.
do
This
that.
is what I
So,
wanted to
like,
get at. Yeah.
I don't blame him for being pissed that he's getting looked off all the time. But at the same time, like if he takes on any more of an offensive role, like
He won't look good.
It will be ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I wanted to get at, because if this rumor that's swirling around the Raptors right now is true, and a lot of it has to do with OG's his perceived lack of a role on this team, or maybe he just wants to expand his game a little more. I think we've gotten to the point now where at least I have, where I can confidently say that OG, where he is now, is just about where his ceiling is as a player in terms of efficiency, in terms of his value. This is as good as it's going to get. And I think that's not a bad thing. Like, we're talking about a guy who may possibly fetch 3 first-round picks, or at least that's the asking price. Like, that is huge.
Yeah, that is
so
huge.
Like, his value is enormous around the league, and it's even larger in the Raptors' eyes. So that isn't a diss to OG. I just think
His
that
track coming out
he
soon.
you can't expect to just go to a team and just, be that 26, or I don't know what he wants to be, a 25 point per game scorer on great efficiency. I've watched this guy. I've watched his isolation game all year. I've watched his attempts at trying to expand his isolation game. I watched it tonight. It's not a great thing to watch. I'm going to be totally honest with you. He's absolutely elite at other facets of the game, but for a guy that, hypothetically, if this is true, I don't see how his role can expand and he can be looked at as a better player on another team. I just don't. I think where he is now is exactly where he should be.
You know what kind of might be going on too long, but what kind of struck me about OG, and it was the first time I am one of the biggest OG supporters I think around, but it struck me tonight that he could be the next Harrison Barnes. Like, Harrison Barnes was like this raw, sick athlete coming out of North Carolina. It's like, plays for the Warriors. He's
incredible prospect.
Yeah, he's going to grow into being this incredible guy. Dallas gets him thinking the same thing. Sacramento gets him thinking the same thing. And he's a good player, but he never became what everybody guaranteed he was going to become just by virtue of his like growth pattern and what he looked like, blah, blah, blah. And OG, like, you're right, OG could be that. He could be at his plateau now. But like you said, that's an all-NBA defensive player.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
he's one of the better two-way players in the league.
Like,
for sure, better than Harrison Barnes.
He's definitely better.
But I understand
like
the analogy.
I get it. Yeah. I kind of agree that, like, this is not his ceiling, but like, this is the type of player he's always going to be. I don't think he'll ever be an on-ball primary creator. I don't think like he's shown enough to warrant any confidence in that, really. And he's been given opportunities, especially when guys have been injured. So that's where I'm at with OG. Where I disagree with you, Aiden, about him being an untouchable is like, this team needs a restructuring to me. I'm not like out on Vision 6-9, but there's a fundamental restructuring that has to happen where rim protection is brought in, shooting is brought in, and guys that can pressure the rim and handle the ball. Like, there are certain things that have to be brought in, and OG is the piece that will command the most on the market, other than Barnes and Siakam, who I just wouldn't trade.
True.
And so that's why I would considering it is the Raptors are in a position this trade deadline where it's a seller's market by all accounts. Everyone's in the play-in game. Everyone's interested in OG. It just seems like he's the guy who they could drum up a bidding war for. True. And reshape the roster basically by like whether it's a pick space passage or a young players package, you can then use those picks to get guys who fit what you're trying to do here. And it would be tough to lose OG, but yeah, I just remembered that, like, I was listening to Pound the Rock. They had a really good episode with Trill Bro Dude, who is like a Sixers guy, funny guy. And one of them pitched an OG for Tyrese Maxey deal. And that seems a bit dreamy to me as a Raptors fan. It's like, why would they give up Maxey for OG? But Maxey's coming off the bench for the Sixers, and basically the sense I got was that the Sixers really want a 3-and-D wing, and that Maxey doesn't entirely fit what they do right now. But Really, I as a Raptors fan, I would do that trade. Like,
I would not.
You don't like Maxey? I just feel like that's what we need. We need a quick guard who can put some pressure on the rim.
I
Would
just
help
don't
our
like.
offense so
I just
much.
don't like small, thin guards who can't play defense. Like I'm not interested.
Okay. I would be, because yes, your defense takes a real hit, but you restructure the team. Obviously, you have to trade Fred or Trent in that
with
Can I say
situation.
something?
I agree with that point. I just don't think Max.
I like Maxey a lot, and he's really
do
young,
too.
and he could get better on defense. He has the size, at least. So, yeah.
I do too. Where I stand on that is if we trade OG, I do not want to see him anywhere near this division. Look, it was already tough enough to watch 76ers games in general, even when they face the Raptors.
Yeah, true that.
But if we watch them and they unleash OG on us, and that ends up being the one guy that can slow down Pascal Siakam in this league, the regret I will have, no matter how good Tyrese Maxey plays for this team, will be immense.
Yeah.
Especially because
I feel
if the
the
Raptors
same
make
way.
a magical playoff run and they somehow run
Yeah.
into the 76ers, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, and OG's there, oh Lord.
That's
Not
kind of
something I
how
wanna
I
see.
feel too, in terms of like, that all makes sense to me, and I think I would really look to do that at the deadline if I'm the Raptors. Again, I would trade at least one of the core guys. But then I think, like, okay, the next championship iteration of the Raptors, like, you kind of need an OG. There are ways to get them for cheaper who are slightly worse, and like, it's possible to get a really good 3-and-D player, but it's not easy. And like, the Raptors would have to fill that hole somehow, and that's a tough hole to fill.
That's
Every team needs that.
It doesn't. Whatever the restructuring is, we're immediately going to need an OG.
We will, but there are cheaper, worse OGs, and you just kind of hope that it's enough.
I also think, like, when we're talking about driving up a bidding war, like, that really only leaves a few teams left that genuinely could offer what we're talking about, which is like the Pels, the Grizzlies, and like I'm probably missing one or two more, like Portland, depending on how much they want to give over. But like, the other competing teams don't have that much. Like, Denver doesn't really have much to give for OG.
No, there's a lot if you get creative. If you get creative, just like the Maxey example. Like, I've also thought about like Denver, if they're scared of Porter Jr.'s history of medical injuries.
Oh yeah, well, if they're willing to
would they be interested? Yeah, in getting off his contract,
like die for Porter. I feel like
I think there's a lot of teams that would get in on the OG sweepstakes, even if they don't have all their picks.
Denver on OG would look. I mean, sorry, OG on Denver.
With Aaron Gordon.
I also think Gary makes sense for Denver, if not OG.
KCP is insulted by that.
It would more be in the Porter spot.
I agree with you with the restructuring, and the only guy I really feel like I'm ready to move on with is Freddie.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Gary. Can we get to this at some point? This is another rumor that has been going on.
Yeah.
But you make your Freddie point first, and then we can get to Gary.
Freddie's a really good player. I'm really nervous to sign. Like, based on what we've seen over the last year, I'd say mileage seems to be something that is like growing, and I could be wrong, and there could be something nagging that'll go away, but it feels like mileage is starting to build with him. And I don't really want to like sign him to a max for another 4 years, worried that he's going to burn out in the next 2 or 3. I also feel like when I'm watching him play, even though he's fantastic at times, his game does feel more dissonant to the rest of the Raptors than most anybody else. Even Gary now, like, I feel like Gary has fit more into our offensive scheme, even though our offensive scheme our offense has been pretty good lately, more so than Gary, or more so than Freddie. And so, yeah, I think like now would be the time we could drive up a mini bidding war for Freddie. I think there's enough desire out there for a dependable shooting, like somewhat good defending point guard. And yeah, so
he's been playing great recently, Aiden, which may help your point even more, may drive up his price a little bit more. I'm personally okay with Fred. I mean, like I said, I'm on the fence with Fred, Gary, and OG. If the price is right and you're getting a haul for any three of those guys, I mean, move them. Fred in the last 5 games.
That's kind of how I feel too.
You trade all three?
No. He's saying whoever
No.
fetches the best deal.
And Fred in the last 5 games
going to fetch the best. No,
like relative deal.
Do you guys think that maybe Fred is starting to reach a point this season? Because I was going to mention the last 5 games, he's at 28 points, 6.6 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, a block. But I think the most encouraging part is that he's shooting 48% from the field and 44% from 3. Do you think Fred maybe is starting to turn the corner where you feel a little better than you would some of the other Raptors core guys?
Yeah. Okay. Like for Fred, it's really hard for me to distill what's injury related and what was just a bad start to the season. But my thing is this, like, I would probably trade whoever gets you the best deal. Like if Gary tells you I'm willing, because a lot of my analysis has been based on the idea that Fred is more likely to re-sign in Toronto, and you can't risk losing any of those guys for nothing. But if Gary indicates that he's willing to sign a long-term deal, Fred is probably the guy who I would rather get rid of. Like in the next 5 years, whose contract would I rather have? Yeah, it's Gary's. However, I'll say this, like, I would be scared to be the team that gives up on Fred VanVleet, because yes, he's dealt with these injuries and stuff, but every single year of his career, he's come back and been better. Yeah. This year, even though the shot isn't going down, he's better than ever in 2-point range. He's better than ever at the rim,
which is still not good.
But he's still getting better every year. And it's like, do you want to give up on this guy and then the 3-point shot comes back, which I have faith that it will. And now, like,
I mean, it already is.
Yeah, he's a really good player again. It's tough. It's really tough for me. And the defense is the even bigger thing. It's like, is his foot speed ever going to get back to where it was at one point in time? Because if not, I just don't know if he can be like a lead guard, starting guy.
The difference between a guy like Gary or Freddie is philosophically which direction you think this team should be going. Like, to your point, should the team be restructuring, or should the team be like building on what it already has and just trying to incrementally get better? Because the former is you trade Freddie or OG and you really kind of reshuffle who's this, like, the central focus of this team, or you keep the core and you trade Gary and you hope to turn that into a couple of pieces or like younger guys that have like longer contracts. Like, I think they really are ideologically different questions.
Yeah,
it's not just about what fetches you the best, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair. Trading Fred would change the team more than trading Gary would.
Hugely.
And I guess that's what the fear is. It's like, would a big change? Yeah, would it change in the right way or the wrong way? Like, Gary is an easier sell in a lot of ways because not that much is going to change. I guess Precious is going to start.
Really quick, guys. Before,
go ahead. I was going to drop a trade.
Oh no, do it. I love hypothetical.
What about Freddie for Chris Paul and stuff?
I don't understand that one entirely.
I don't want to.
Because aren't we trying to get younger?
Well, you hope the stuff is like picks or like.
Yeah, but the Chris Paul
Cameron Johnson. It's probably too much money. I don't know. I just think it's like you salvage this season, you get off the money quicker, or like eventually still, right? He only has one more year.
Someone asked me that. They said Chris Paul in a first-round pick, and I was like, no, that makes no sense. And then I was home thinking about it, and I was like, ooh, they might be pretty good with Chris Paul. So I don't know, but I would want to get more picks in young players. Because, this year, there's real incentive this year to tank. Like, let's be honest, to move down a few spots. So I don't know if I care as much about getting good this year as I do next year and the year after that.
Yeah, see, I don't want to stop competing this year. So that's why, like, the Chris Paul makes sense for that.
Yeah.
Assuming you can get some other value with it.
Yeah, I'm sentimental, honestly, with Fred. Like,
me too. I like
that, and And I'm just scared of all the leadership stuff that he does and the intangibles that he has, trading him and just getting younger. I'm just like, ooh, this could go in the bad place.
I know.
But logically, he does make a lot of sense, more sense than Gary to trade.
Are you guys against or for, really quickly, are you guys against or for trading 2 of those 3 core guys who have been mentioned most in trades, in Fred, Gary, and OG? Would you guys ever trade both during the same deadline or during the same season?
Yeah, I'm open to 2.
Or does that change too much?
No, I'm open for big change. Big change is needed.
I would prefer to hold on to OG and let the other 2 go if we're talking about trading 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's get into some of the comments, because once we initiate talks like this, we get tons of things thrown at us, trade offers, all that stuff.
As long as we don't
I know you highlighted this one, Oren, so I'll highlight it for you. Because he's.
I just don't understand the idea of trading Pascal Siakam. Even
it doesn't to me. It doesn't even. When people say, like, there's another comment in there, I think from Lester, who said it would take a Gobert package to move Pascal. I might be crazy, but I'm not moving Pascal for anything that doesn't involve like a player better than him in the league. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking a top 10 NBA player. Like, if you're not talking John Morant, or it's just
the people who say to trade Siakam are the people who have no patience and are like, I'm ready to fully embrace the tank, even though the Raptors were good last year. Like, the people who think trade Siakam are really like tank culture people.
People who want to tank just buy like shitty crypto coins.
Exactly. It's the same brain. It's the same brain. Tank brain is crypto brain. It's also like it's just
like, how do you watch Pascal's entire season, and even, like, for me, he shouldn't even be mentioned in hypothetical trades, or any sort of hypothetical where it's like, what would you do if this team approached you with this? Like, I'm set on the fact that I'm not trading Pascal Siakam unless the Raptors are getting a player that is objectively better than Pascal back in the trade, which is not going to happen.
If you're trading, that's the answer I have. If you're trading Pascal, trade the entire starting lineup except for Scotty.
Exactly. It's just you're building around Scotty and you're getting super young.
Yeah.
And Gary. But, like, yeah, that's what people actually think they should do. But those people are like, I'm like, are you going to be the one watching games for the next 2 seasons when they're one of the worst teams in the league? Or are you just going to come back 3 years later and be like, see, I told you they should tank. We have to watch these games. All right. We can't go away for a few years and just watch the
We're
drafts.
talking like a bona fide all NBA second team player, like bona fide top 15.
Who's still getting better?
Who's getting better? Who's shown signs of improvement every single year. Like, we're talking drastic improvement too.
And that's another reason why I don't love the fit with Freddie is I do think that, like, he draws away from Pascal's optimal performance. And I think taking Freddie away gives Pascal more space to operate, which I think is a good thing.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think Pascal has a good 2-man game with Fred.
And they're getting better. They are getting better with the pick and roll and stuff like that.
They're both really good shooters, so it gives Siakam room. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. What were we talking about? Yeah, 2 trades. 2 trades is a lot.
Should we run this all night? Should we just do a marathon
until the trade deadline? By the way, guys, we should do a live trade deadline podcast.
You guys are doing this live show. It's like super live bias. Like,
in fact, we should stay live until the trade deadline.
Yeah, no, but for our viewers, we're going to be live right at 2 to 3 on the trade deadline.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Probably like 2 to 5, realistically. Yeah,
that's gonna be fun for sure.
Let's wrap up.
We're gonna wrap it up here.
Wrap it up.
Before you guys leave us tonight, before you press X on that tab, we need you to like the video. We need you to also subscribe. My taxman, I'm gonna say it really quick. It's Precious Achua, Oren, and Aiden. You guys could reveal who your taxman is.
I'll give it to Siakam.
Shout out to Chris Boucher's 2 massive blocks.
Yeah, Chris Boucher deserves it too. That's great. That's a great 3. All right.
our 3 stars of the night. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really appreciate you joining us on the super, super, super late edition of Wrap Up Live. Like, if you haven't commented, comment, give us all your trade thoughts, and subscribe. This live show was produced by all 3 of us. And your Raptors tonight defeated the Sacramento Kings, the very good Sacramento Kings, 113-95, bringing the Raptors record to 21-27 on the NBA season. That was it for myself, Warren Weisfeld, Adam Moss.
Golden State on Friday.
Yeah, Golden State. Friday, another 10 p.m.er, guys. So you'll see us at 1 in the morning again. Enjoy, have a great night, and sleep well.